I stood frozen in the doorway, my breath caught somewhere between disbelief and fury. The image before me seared into my brain, a scene so vile, so utterly destructive, that it shattered every illusion I had ever held about my marriage. Elaine knelt before him, her hands gripping his thighs, her lips wrapped around his length. The intimacy, the rawness of it, felt like a blade slicing through my chest. The man, her affair partner, had his head tilted back, lost in pleasure, oblivious to my presence. For a second, no one moved. Then she saw me. Elaine's eyes widened, horror washing over her face. Her lips parted in shock as she yanked herself away from him, scrambling backward, choking on her own betrayal. A strangled sound escaped her throat. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms as I took a single step forward. The coward in front of me, half naked, his arousal still evident, snapped his head toward the door, his expression morphing from satisfaction to sheer panic. Elaine pulled the sheet around her trembling body, her mouth opening and closing, struggling to form words. But what could she say? What excuse could ever justify this? My voice came out low, almost foreign to my own ears. "Don't speak." She flinched. I could see her trying to piece together a lie, some desperate attempt to twist this into something it wasn't. But there was no escaping it. The air in the room was thick with sex, with betrayal, with everything I never thought I would find my wife drowning in. The man, this pathetic excuse for a human being, grabbed his pants from the floor, stammering, "Look, man, I didn't know she was married." I turned my head toward him slowly, the weight of my stare pinning him in place. "You didn't know?" I repeated, my voice eerily calm. His mouth opened, then shut. A liar recognizing the futility of his own words. Elaine reached for me, her voice breaking. "Please, just let me explain." I stepped back, her touch repulsing me. The sheets she clutched couldn't hide what she had done. They couldn't erase the fact that she had given herself to another man while I, her husband, had been at home, believing in a future that no longer existed. "Explain." A bitter chuckle escaped me, though it held no humor. My chest burned, my throat dry as I swallowed down the anger threatening to consume me. "What exactly do you plan to explain, Elaine? The part where you lied? The part where you snuck off to a hotel, thinking I'd never find out? Or the part where you destroyed everything we built?" Tears welled in her eyes, but I felt nothing. No sympathy. No pity. Nothing but the cold realization that the woman I had loved was gone, if she had ever existed at all. "I never meant." I cut her off. "Save it," she sobbed. "It was a mistake." I tilted my head, studying her, feeling only the weight of disappointment pressing down on me. "A mistake," I repeated. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is leaving the oven on. You don't accidentally end up on your knees for another man, Elaine." Her lover had the audacity to step forward. "Look, this is between you two, man. Maybe we should all just calm down." My glare silenced him instantly. Elaine reached for me again, desperation leaking into her voice. "Please, just talk to me." I exhaled sharply, shaking my head. "There's nothing to talk about." Reaching into my pocket, I pulled out my wedding ring. The symbol of everything I had once believed in. The weight of it felt foreign now, useless. I held it for a moment, then tossed it onto the bed beside her. Her breath hitched. "No, please." I turned on my heel. She sobbed behind me, her cries echoing through the sterile hotel room. I walked out without another word, without looking back. I stepped into the hallway, the hotel's dim lighting casting long shadows on the carpet. The door clicked shut behind me, sealing off the past I no longer wanted any part of. My breathing was slow, measured, forced. I had to keep it together. Each step felt heavy as I moved toward the elevator, my thoughts drowning in rage, pain, and disbelief. I had pictured every worst-case scenario in my head before, but never this. Never her like that. The elevator doors slid open, revealing an older couple inside, arm in arm. They smiled politely, oblivious to the storm raging inside me. I hesitated for half a second before stepping in. The doors closed, trapping me in silence. I clenched my jaw, staring at the glowing numbers above. My reflection in the mirrored wall looked like a stranger, eyes dark with betrayal, lips pressed into a thin line. I had always prided myself on control, but right now, I was barely holding on. Ding! The doors opened, and I stepped into the lobby. The air was thick with the scent of overpriced cologne and polished wood. A few guests milled about, chatting, checking in, living their lives as if the world hadn't just caved in. I walked straight out the front doors, into the crisp night air. My car sat where I had left it, beneath the glow of a flickering street lamp. The keys felt cold in my grip as I slid into the driver's seat. My hands rested on the wheel, unmoving. Then, without thinking, I slammed my fist against the dashboard. Pain shot through my knuckles, sharp and grounding. But it wasn't enough. Nothing would be enough to erase what I had seen. The betrayal burned. Elaine, the woman I had given years of my life to, had thrown everything away for him. Some random stranger. Some worthless excuse for a man. And for what? A moment of pleasure? A cheap thrill? I exhaled through my nose, forcing myself to focus. Think. Don't feel. My phone buzzed in the passenger seat. I glanced at the screen. Elaine, 9 missed calls, 15 messages. I snatched the device, scrolling through the messages. Please come back. I need to explain. You don't understand, it wasn't like that. I love you, please don't do this. Pick up, we need to talk. Lie after lie. I tossed the phone aside, gripping the wheel. I wasn't falling for her manipulations. Not this time. I had spent years building a life with her. A home. Trust. Commitment. And she had ripped it apart in one reckless act. A sharp knock on my window snapped me out of my thoughts. I turned. Elaine. Her face was streaked with tears, her hair disheveled. She had thrown on a jacket over whatever she had been wearing, or not wearing, upstairs. Her lips trembled as she mouthed my name. I rolled the window down an inch. Just enough. Go home, Elaine. She sniffled. Please, just talk to me. I gripped the wheel tighter. Talk? Now you want to talk. A bitter laugh escaped me. You weren't thinking about talking when you were on your knees for him. She flinched. It was a mistake. A stupid, horrible mistake. I swear, it didn't mean anything. I scoffed. Didn't mean anything. My voice was ice. Then why do it? She opened her mouth, then closed it, as if realizing there was no good answer. I love you, she whispered instead. Something inside me cracked, but not in the way she hoped. Love? No. Love didn't betray. Love didn't sneak off to hotel rooms and lie straight to your face. Whatever I had felt for her before had been murdered the second I saw her with him. I exhaled, my decision solidifying. Elaine, we're done. Fresh tears welled in her eyes. No. Please, I can fix this. I shook my head. You can't fix what's already broken. Her breath hitched. I'll do anything. I cut her off. Get away from my car. She hesitated, searching my face for a trace of the man who once adored her. But he was gone. She had killed him. Finally, she stepped back. I rolled up the window, shifted the car into drive, and without another glance, I pulled away. Elaine disappeared into the distance, shrinking in my rearview mirror. I didn't feel relief. Not yet. But for the first time that night, I felt free. The road stretched before me, an empty highway bathed in the cold glow of streetlights. My hands tightened around the wheel, my knuckles white. The wind howled outside, but inside the car, there was only silence, except for the steady pounding of my heart. Elaine was gone. The weight of finality settled over me, heavy but necessary. I had spent years believing in her, trusting her, loving her. And in return, she had given herself to another man like I was nothing. I should have felt devastated. But all I felt was numb. The green highway signs blurred past. I wasn't sure where I was going, only that I needed to be far from the wreckage of my marriage. A buzzing sound pulled me back. My phone lit up again. Elaine, 3 missed calls, 8 messages. I exhaled sharply, ignoring it. Then another notification appeared. Mark, Man, where are you? I just saw Elaine's post. Call me. I frowned. Mark had been my best friend for years, one of the few people I actually trusted. If he was reaching out, something was up. Against my better judgment, I grabbed the phone and called him. He picked up immediately. Dude, tell me you're not thinking about going back. I let out a humorless laugh. Not a chance. Good. He sighed. Because she's already trying to spin the story. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. What do you mean? I mean, she just posted some sob story online, talking about how you left her without warning, how she's heartbroken and confused. Anger simmered beneath my skin. She's making herself the victim? Looks like it. She didn't mention the part where she was screwing another guy in a hotel room, though. Of course, she didn't. Elaine was always good at playing the innocent one. Always knew how to manipulate people into believing what she wanted them to believe. But not this time. I don't care what she says, I muttered. She can tell whatever lies she wants. I'm done. Mark hesitated. You sure? I'm sure. There was a beat of silence before he spoke again. Then come crash at my place for a while. Clear your head. I considered it. The last thing I wanted was to be alone with my thoughts in some random motel. Yeah, I said finally. I'll be there in a few hours. Good. And hey, she's gonna try to get in your head. Don't let her. She won't. I hung up and tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. Elaine had already lost her grip on me. She could cry, she could beg, she could rewrite the story however she wanted. It didn't change the truth. And it sure as hell didn't change what I saw. I pressed down on the gas pedal, the car roaring forward. The past was behind me. And I wasn't looking back. Mark's house sat at the edge of the city, far from the noise, far from the memories that clung to me like a disease. When I pulled into his driveway, he was already outside, leaning against his porch railing, arms crossed. I barely had time to kill the engine before he spoke. She's still blowing up my phone, man. I grabbed my bag from the passenger seat and slammed the door shut. Let her. Mark smirked. Cold. I like it. I followed him inside, the scent of whiskey and old leather filling the air. His place was familiar, unchanged from the countless nights we had spent here drinking, laughing, talking about life. Back when I thought my life actually meant something. He poured me a glass without asking, sliding it across the counter. So, what's next? I took a sip, the burn settling deep. Divorce. Mark grinned. Good. Make her regret everything. I exhaled through my nose. She already does. I could see it in her eyes when she stood outside my car, begging me to stay. She hadn't thought I'd actually walk away. She had counted on my loyalty, on my weakness. She had gambled and lost. Mark leaned back. So, no second chances? No, let's talk it through? I laughed, shaking my head. She didn't hesitate when she dropped to her knees for him. Why should I hesitate to walk away? He raised his glass. To new beginnings, then. We clinked glasses, and I drained mine in one go. But even as the warmth spread through me, I knew a drink wouldn't erase the scars she left. I had loved Elaine once. Had given her everything. And she had thrown it away for a cheap thrill. But now, she had to live with the consequences. I checked my phone. More messages. More missed calls. I smirked and blocked her number. Let her drown in silence. I was done.